Welcome to Reston's African American Legacy Program. I'm Laverne Gill, and it is my pleasure this week to introduce you to two people that I am sure you'll remember for quite some time after these interviews. Ron West, who is a fitness trainer, and Lisa Earhart, who is a diversity trainer. Hello, Mr. West.
How you doing? Glad to be here.
It's good to have you here. Now, first disclosure, you were at one point my personal trainer.
Yes, I was.
I'm a dropout.
And it was rough.
Yes, I know. So
I
now,
enjoyed
now that you've gone on to more successful things, why don't we talk about your business?
Would love
When
to.
did you come here to Reston?
I came to Reston back in '88. I left Cincinnati. I came here with about 25 guys from Cincinnati to come up here. There was a cable TV company called Media General. They was going to build an infrastructure, cable TV infrastructure. And I came over with 25 guys to be the point person to help them build the infrastructure of the cable TVs throughout Fairfax County.
So now it was Media General. Was that a predecessor to some other
It's
company?
like Media General is like the Comcast and people of that nature, but it was a cable TV company and one of the biggest ones around in this area.
Okay. So you were an engineer?
Actually, I came up. I had my background is chemical engineering. That's what I went to school for, but I really didn't like it, so I got out back in the '70s. Bought me a little truck, and I started going around the country building telecommunication systems. That's how I made my way here. So I do have an engineering background, but more on the technical side of how to build TV systems, cable TV systems, and turn them up and so forth.
Wow. Well, then what year was that?
That was back in the late '80s and '90s,
Okay.
and that's how I made my way here to work for. When I came up here to help rebuild the Reston TV system, actually it was called Warner Amex when I started working for them as a technical engineer. And basically at that time I was overseeing 12 technicians because Reston was going through a rebuild as well because all the cable TV lines in the ground were old. So they wanted to upgrade everything. And my job was to get up there, pull up all those old lines and install new lines and run new lines to people's homes and so forth.
So how did you make the transition from that to what you're doing now?
Got married back in the late '80s. Started picking up a
that'll
lot of weight.
transition
And what happened was I picked up weight. I ballooned up to about 256 pounds. And what happened, I was working for a telecommunications company and got to the point where I could, I've always been in kind of training people since about the mid-'90s, but just friends, not doing it real serious, but I always knew that was my passion. And an opportunity presented itself that I could start my own LLC, and which I did back in '04. Started my own LLC, and I have a couple of trainers that work for me. And that's how I made the transition because the term key was me waking up one morning realizing that I was 256 pounds. My self-esteem as a person was low. My morale as a man was low. Was crying, woke up crying and couldn't take it anymore and started walking. Walking led to jogging. Jogging led to entering races. And it took me about almost 2 years, a little over 2 years to get the weight down from 256 down to 168, 170-ish. And that's when I got certified as a nutritionist and started teaching kickboxing and always kind of been into martial arts and just moved more toward the health and wellness side of life.
Well, you know, that's quite inspirational for those of us who like to do that. So it takes a lot of fortitude, a lot
does.
of attitude,
It does.
and a lot of spiritual energy.
And yes, it does. It basically it's just being consistent. And how bad do you want it? And I wanted it real bad because I knew that if the weight was to continue to increase, it would get into health problems. And I didn't want that. It was already affecting my self-esteem as a man, so I needed to change that anyway.
Well, so then you became a personal trainer?
Actually what happened, when I made the switch from having a corporate job to becoming a trainer, I only had one client, so I had to go around. I was teaching at about 20 different clubs in the area between here and DC. I've taught for the NRO, I've taught for the USA Today, I've taught for Freddie Mac, I've taught at all the sporting healths, all the goals in the area, and other fitness companies as well. And what happened, I started building a network. So one client turned around, now it's up to 65 plus, so I started dropping the health clubs, and now just, I just have the place where I'm at right now, and all my clients come over there, and I run my wellness program out of there, and I teach class. I still teach kickboxing, and so.
So you have one location where people come to you.
Right. The location that I am is right here in Reston, and I was fortunate enough to meet a gentleman that would allow me to work everything in his facility, so my business is being run up there right here in Reston.
Well, you're not only a fitness trainer, though. You're an advocate for living healthy, clean,
I am.
eating clean,
I am.
and living a healthy life.
I am.
So give us some of your tips.
Well,
and I'm going to write that down.
And you should. No, what I tell people, 80% of how we look is really about eating. I mean, we need to exercise to make that a joint effort, because sometimes people don't get the correlation between, they think that if they exercise, they can go out and eat whatever they want to eat. And you can, but to a certain degree. So what I say is we have to get away from some of the processed foods that we're eating and get more into fresh and frozen foods, and get away from all the greasy type foods. That's what adds to weight. Carbohydrates, if they're out of whack, adds to weight. If your sugar intake is out of whack, adds to weight. So there's a lot of things that go into the formula.
So now that we're near the holiday season, you don't eat any of these things that we usually eat during the holidays, do you?
I do.
Oh.
But what I do is, as I tell my clients and myself, the week prior to the holiday week, I dial back my calorie intake. So if I'm up around, just say if I'm up around 2,000 intake a day, I'll dial it back some, so when I go into the holidays, I can eat what I want to eat and not come out of it picking up 5-10 pounds.
Well, I'm going to try that.
Because I'm still going to have my chitlins.
See, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go there with you. But I do understand. But we're really glad to have you, and we're glad to have the kind of advice that you provide to us, because
My pleasure.
think so often we forget that living healthy means just basic things, and also exercising as much as possible. So I will be returning to you as a personal trainer.
I hope you do. I enjoyed it.
Yes, but also I want to thank you for what you've done for Reston, because although you're modest in what you say, I know that a number of people have benefited from the kinds of advice and the kind of training that you've provided.
Thank you.
And so I want to say thank you for making our lives much better and richer and clearer as we go about our business of trying to live healthy lives.
Thank you
so
so
we
much.
have just a little token for you,
Oh, thank you so much.
because we consider you one of Reston's African American legacy heroes
Thank you so much.
and pioneers. And I didn't know about all of the things you did with the cable,
Okay.
making it possible for us to do just what we do today.
Absolutely.
So we want to thank you.
Pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for Reston's African American Legacy Program.
Welcome back to Reston's African American Legacy Program. My name is Pamela A. Hart Stewart, your host for The Next Generation. I am so happy to have Dr. Lisa Seacrest Earhart here with me today. She is a longtime Restonian, and I have to say I've got to know her well, and I do truly admire her. Your accomplishments and your community service has been over, I guess, a couple decades now. And I know, a couple decades, but tell us about moving to Reston, when you moved here, and we'll talk about your first kind of interaction in Reston.
My family came here in 1975. I came as a 14-year-old screaming and kicking from New England. I didn't want to come here. And once I came to Reston, it was hard in the beginning, but immediately I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of different things to do. Lake Ann Shopping Center, the Village Center, was right. I walked down from where we lived, and there's a lot to do there. My first job was at Mr. Bayer's ice cream parlor,
Yes,
so I
I
worked
remember.
at the center. I loved the lake. I was able to borrow a friend's sailboat and sail on Lake Anne for a little bit. So it was really a nice community that was very welcoming.
Yes.
And so I went away to school, and then my parents still lived in the area. Went away to school and got married to actually a fellow Restonian. We moved back to Reston, and I've chosen to raise my family here. So I'm going on, I think, close to 40 years in
Wow.
Reston. So
That's
it's the longest place I've ever lived in my life. I grew up a military child, so
That's wonderful. And so you gravitated back.
gravitated back.
And one of the things I read is that you worked at Terracet. Now, was Terracet one of the first elementary schools in Reston? I think one of the first.
It was. I don't know if it was the first, but it was the first. Like the name Terracet is
Right.
built in the ground. So
Right.
a lot of innovative things that happened.
Right.
It made world news about all the things that happened there. And I was served as a parent liaison for about 3 to 4 years. And what I connected were, I worked with all the parents in the school, but primarily with the parents that were new to the area, the immigrant parents, African American parents, Asian parents, and Hispanic parents. We set up we're trying to do an outreach to Hispanic parents, a Hispanic speaking PTSA meeting. We tried to get the parents in, and I'm not fluent, but I had someone come in who could speak and kind of interact with the parents. But we were really trying to get the parents a little bit more involved in all the great things that Reston had. And so that was a wonderful job. My kids were attending the school at the time, so I was a mom that was interacting there, so that was a lot of fun.
And so a lot of diversity, working
A lot of
with
diversity.
parents, families, diversity, and for anyone like we know Reston, it's a lot of diversity here. I think that's why people love it so much.
It's the key.
It is definitely the key. And so with that, now staying in Reston, because you've done so much, the Reston Community Center. You've worked there. Explain. You've did some workshops and classes.
Yeah, my first interaction with the Reston Community Center as a patron. Living in Reston, I came in. I swam there, attended the theater. It's a wonderful cultural events there. Just really, that's a hub of the community, and just interact. So I interacted that way, and then I knew one of the directors on. They needed some help with the senior citizens, and I had worked with senior citizens as a social worker. So I worked as a senior adult program director for a short period of time. That was really fun. And then as I was raising my children, they're younger, they had me come back and do different things. I helped for a very short, brief period of time of class workshop director. I worked with the youth program for a little bit. I was in a special program. They were trying to get African American instructors in swimming. So I took the WSI class, and I taught swim instruction there for a couple of years. I love that, teaching lots of different kids, and got them through starting a program, and they became members of our RSTA swim team. So a lot of swimming there, and then
Wait, so that means though, I don't know, you could potentially be then one of the first African American swimming instructors?
I don't know that.
I don't know.
No, you mean no.
Well, I don't know.
Like-
We'll have to find out. We'll look into that. But you do love swimming.
Yeah,
you
I
love
love
swimming.
swimming.
You continue to swim to this day, and you do triathlons.
Yes, that's.
When was your last triathlon?
The last one I just participated in was the Reston Triathlon. I think it's that second weekend in September. Some friends of mine were doing it. They said I knew how to swim, and I rode bikes. They go, you could do this, and they kind of egged me on. And first year of training, it was really hard.
Sure.
But I kind of fell in love with it. It was a lot of work, but it kept me fit.
Right.
It kept me connected to the community, and that's a wonderful event. And so every year I said I will continue to try until I can't. And I've met a lot of Restonians all over the place, just who are triathletes.
That's
and so they
wonderful.
encourage me, they keep me going. It's a neat event, so that keeps me swimming.
Right.
So growing up a swimmer, so it's really nice to do that. I think it's really kind of neat. There are African American triathletes, very few compared to other people who do. So for me to participate, I just consider myself an athlete, but to participate in the Reston Triathlon, which is a phenomenal one, as an African American, it's kind of neat.
That's amazing.
I'm trying to get a little faster.
Well, we'll have to stay connected because that's on my bucket list. So you'll have to encourage me and inspire me because I really would like to do that. So the Reston Community, it doesn't end there because you're still a great part of the Reston Board of Governors there.
Yes.
So explain what you do with that group of great people.
Oh yeah, a wonderful board. The current director of the center is Lila Gordon, and she's wonderful. And a few years back, people in the community had from time to time said, "You should run for the board. You're so involved." I was like, "No, I was too busy." And there was a position a few years ago, and at the encouragement of another Restonian who was retiring from the board, I thought I'd run. And a lot of people, I always know a lot of people in Reston being here long, but I didn't know how many people knew me.
Right.
And people go, "Oh, you're running, I voted for you." It was really interesting, and it was exciting. It's like, oh, I really, in different ways, made an impact in the community. So serving on the board has been wonderful. I thought I knew Reston really well, but serving on the Board of Governors has opened up to a whole lot of other things. I've done some work at the, when I'm involved with things in the community, there's a lot of volunteer things that the community center does. So it opens you up to really seeing not just how much the community center serves the community, but how as a board member you can give back in a different way and meet a lot of people. So
and it's important. You've lived here for so many years, and things change. So it's nice to be a part of that. So you can, well, thank you for that, because the board is very important to have such a, like you said, the impact that you heard from others with the board. Now, something else I want to talk about, you got your PhD. With everything else you've done, you got your PhD. Tell us about that. And you're a professor and lecturer?
Yes, several. I always wanted to get my PhD, but when I was raising children, it was going to be a hard thing to do, and I figured I have to do the right timing. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, I decided I was going to go, and I went to Catholic University and did full time and loved it. Was very involved, but my interest I'm a professional social worker, and so my interest was diversity issues, focusing on race and ethnicity. And growing up where I did, being a child of the world, going all around, and then living in Reston, such a diverse community, I really honed on my life experiences, and I put the academic part together. And so my PhD is in clinical social work, but I kind of focus on the concentration on race and ethnicity issues and diversity. So I incorporate that in all my giving back in the community, and everywhere I go I kind of talk about it. Some I've done mostly pro bono assistance, or actually call it assistance, or training or consultation within the Reston Herndon area. And I'm starting up my own business where I do consulting. I've done it off and on for 20 years, and now I'm really trying to do a lot more of it. But I do just a lot of education about the whole issue of, even though we are a diverse community and racial issues, race is a big issue in our country as a whole, but people can and do get along, and there's ways to do it. I mean, Reston's a perfect example of it. It's not this perfect society, but people live and get along. They deal with some struggles, but I put that part of how you can get together and really help. And there's lots of things I say, like, for example, I'm thinking about the Reston Community Center, the board, or just the community center in general. You go in there, you see everybody. It's like a little United Nations in there. And like I say, that's the hub of Reston. It goes out. And then at Lake Ann Center, you see lots of different people. Even the town center, Reston really pulls that together. So I just try and take my skill set as a professional social worker, and like I say, my life experiences, and pull them into what I can do and how I can, people say serve the community. I just think it's how I live in my community. It's just the skill set I have. So if I can offer it back, it's just part of what I do. So, and it's enjoyable. I say this is such a neat place to live, and like I say, I've never lived in a place so long, so it's kind of neat to say, like, yeah, I've been here since 1975, to watch Reston literally blossom and grow. When there were so few people here. I remember when the town center was a field, and there were actually animals in it. Or Temporary Road, which is so used right now, was the big road then. And Reston Parkway was Reston Avenue, and it was 2 lanes. I remember. It could take forever to get to one side, and the Ribs bus was little, and it was a little metro, not a little like Mercedes bus. It was very different. And even though Reston's grown, you still have the sense of community.
It is.
Some of the new people are like, oh, it's so big. And I said, the wonderful thing that brings you here is Reston, but don't, even though it's big in the newer things, because we really are, in the 21st century. The small town feel of Reston is wonderful. I think that's what has kept me here. I love the African American community here, also because it's diverse. Some people just think that, again, the Reston, you're talking about diversity in general. There's a lot of just diversity within that community, and people, as I said, well, I interact with everybody in Reston, but people, it's nice to come someplace and see that be in a town where everyone can prosper. And coming here as a teenager and watching lots of people prosper is wonderful. So that's kind of, it just felt natural for me to stay in Reston.
That's why I admire you. I do. It truly is, because to your point, I mean, you've lived here for a long time, and there's a lot of opportunity. I think that's why I haven't left. I started my business here, and like you, when you just there's just the diversity that I love so much, and I've traveled, but I always come back. It's just something here that I can't find anywhere else. You're an entrepreneur. You just mentioned this. You have a business, 23 years.
Yeah, it's not as, I watch all my other friends who are real entrepreneurs. I'm starting. I'm trying to make this be a little bit more. Right now, for a few years, when I was working on my PhD, I was an adjunct lecturer at Catholic University, and now I'm assistant professor at the University of the District of Columbia. And I'm teaching some classes full time there. But one of the things I do is I always incorporate my diversity training.
Right.
So I really, now that I have the special, I always call it the special skill set or my PhD, I really want to grow that business because I just think I have this, not only just a passion,
Right.
but the connection.
Yes.
And when I do the workshops, I do it really well. And
Wow,
people say,
good
you've done
for
it
you.
better than anyone has been to. I was like, so I've got to make this work. So,
for you.
so definitely working on a business. And that takes a lot of time.
So
but it's,
2015.
yeah,
The vision. It's good. It's looking good for you. So, so 2015. You just got elected recently. You with the Fairfax?
Oh, no,
Remind me.
I'm a member of the class of 2015 Leadership Fairfax.
Leadership Fairfax.
Yeah.
That's right. You
It's-
told me.
it's
So tell me
wonderful.
about that and how that'll go into 2015 and what do you see there?
It's a year-long program for, a combination of business people,
Good.
professionals that
Good.
that are leaders in their community. But you're really in a program where you learn how to further develop your leadership skills by interacting with other leaders and how you
great.
learn how to give back and how to be a servant leader and how to be truly present. And so we go all about all in different places in Fairfax County just to learn about how the county operates and really become connected in the larger Fairfax County. This is a wonderful county. I mean, it's I love it. And to see other people who live in the county who love it as much as I do, it's really kind of neat to see how much they want to give back.
Right.
And these are professionals with all different skill set, and that, there's a lot of just a lot of team building and a lot of knowledge sharing. They bring in experts in different areas. They bring in a lot of graduates. So I'm just at the beginning of it, but I'm loving it. And 2015, I think when we graduate this year, as LFI people always say, 2015 is going to be the best year at LFI.
Well,
so
I agree. Well,
best class.
I would love to learn more about this because as leaders, I'm always intrigued by the leaders of our community, and as much as I can learn and share with my peers, it would just be a blessing to me in itself. So, well, I say it again. I admire you because of the balance that you have. You have a family. You have your lecturer, your professor. You're so involved with the community, and I mean, it's just amazing to me that you've now got this vision into 2015. Now you have your boys. They're still here in Reston then?
Right. Well, I have girls and boys.
And girls and boys,
I
right.
have 23. All my children, I'm proud to say, they're all graduates of Fairfax County schools, and they all went through school. All three of them went to Lake Ann Nursery Kindergarten, which is a legacy here in Reston.
Yes.
They went to Terracet Elementary School, Langston Hughes Middle School, which we loved, and South Lakes High School, which fantastic
I
high
know.
school. Loved
I
it.
graduated
It's a
from South
really good
Lakes.
school with the
It
IB
is.
program. And if you want to talk about United Nations or diversity,
Yes.
anybody who is, even if you don't have kids in that high school now, you owe it to yourself to go inside that school and see it is like a United Nation. You have kids from all over the world.
Yes.
And our children here in Reston have the opportunity to learn from everyone. And it's vice versa. People give and they get back. And it really is wonderful to see that. Kids who, then they go away to different schools, not just my kids, but other people's kids, and they come back and they go, there's no diversity, because where they are, they had it right here. And so my kids, they graduate from high school, and I have, one's actually graduating, she's a teacher, she's in Philadelphia, and then I have twins, girl-boy twins, that are seniors. They're about to graduate, seniors in college, so
But I'm sure you learn from them too. I would have
Yeah.
to think, just with the generational changes,
Yeah, they love Reston, but I think they're going to branch out and go different places. They still call this home. I do feel very fortunate that I could raise them in a place that they didn't have to move around so
Right.
much, but they could call home
Right.
and just have, like I say, my parents were here first, so my mom lives nearby still. My sister lives in Reston. So there's family members that are still here, but they also see a very diverse community they interact with. They see, I know some of the segments on your show, they see lots of professionals from all different walks of life.
Right.
And they interact. So I think they've learned so much from Reston. So it's hard to believe, like, when I came to Reston, I myself was a teenager,
Right.
and had no kids, but then raised a family.
Yes,
in Reston.
yes.
So that's kind of.
Well, I have to ask. It came to mind. Do you think you might ever write a book? Has that ever crossed your mind? Just with everything you're saying, with the facts of diversity and the changes that you've seen, and just the impacts that you made, and you said people you didn't know until people really started telling you, like, I know you for what you've done. I know you for the impact you've made. Have you thought about writing a book?
When Yes and no. I should say yes. I love to write. I'm a good writer. With the diversity issue,
Sure.
my dissertation was on multiracial identity development, and during my dissertation defense, the head guy at the end, he goes, "You have to write a book. You cannot let this stuff go."
Yeah.
And when he said it to me, I was like, "Well, you're done right," so I didn't want to do it. But
Sure.
then, there was a lot of information there, and also being here in Reston, and then being a child. My father was one of the first African American naval officers, and that in itself has a lot of history. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that's partly why my parents chose Reston
Sure.
to live. That I do probably will pull some of all that together. And I'm supposed to be writing, but right now there's a lot going on. But at some point, I probably will
see
dig
it
it
in
pen
your
and paper and do some
I
writing.
can see it.
So-
Well, thank you
Oh,
so
thank you
much.
for having me
Lisa.
here. It's kinda neat.
You have, like I said, you just instilled so much in me. When we first met,
Yeah.
I read about you. You really did inspire me. So you're touching people all throughout the community. And with a token from us, African American Legacy Program, we just want to give you a token of our thanks
Oh,
to
thank you so
for being
much.
on the show.
I appreciate
we
that.
wish you the best
That's neat.
into your next venture. 2015 is going to be a phenomenal year. We want to thank you for watching our show, Reston's African American Legacy Program. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for Reston's African American Legacy Program. Before we leave you this time, I want to share with you the photos, the pictures that we have here. This artwork was done by Ray Hart, and many people have asked me about his pictures, and I just wanted to share these pictures with you. Ray Hart is a young man and local artist who started here in this area. And we just want to say that if you want to find out more about his artwork and more about him, you go to rayhart.com, RAYHART.com. This is Laverne Gill, and this has been Reston's African American Legacy Program. Until next time, we'll see you.